which is the trend of tobacco use in Thailand and how youth can do more sustainable support. The talk will be presented by Dr. Naowarat Charoenca. Let me go over her CV a little bit so that, while she's preparing and so that we can get to know her a little bit more. She's an associate professor at Mahidol University at the Faculty of Public Health in Thailand. She teaches graduate students in an international public health program, including doctors, dentists, nurses from more than 30 countries. In her experience, she received her doctorate degree from University of Hawaii, and her expertise. Right now she served on the WHO World Health Organization Expert Committee that assessed Thailand's national plan and helped to formulate the present national strategy plan. Her expertise is with tobacco research, including community-based intervention studies, school clinic, smoking cessation research, and policy-relevant research in Thailand. So Dr. Naowarat will be giving a talk for right now about how do we evolve? What's the trend of the tobacco use in Thailand right now, and how do we work on that? So, Dr. Naowarat, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Dr. Notai, and good morning, everyone. Probably good evening for some of you. I know that there are some of you that's across the globe. So. I'm very happy to be here to present something about the trends of tobacco use among the youth, and more importantly, about how youth can provide sustainable action against tobacco use. That is very important. And in fact, another important person who should have been here with me, she cannot make it, the assistant professor, Dr. Sirat Labjai, who is very kind to lend some of her PowerPoint so that I can pass it on, some very important information to you all. So I hope she's in the audience, and many thanks to Dr. Sirat as well. So a very important question to you all is this: how youth can provide sustainable action against tobacco use. On the left-hand side, on my slides right now, you probably will be overwhelmed throughout the day that you've been hearing it over and over about the tactics of the tobacco industries and many kinds of new tobacco products available, and how, strategically that they're going to lure you or youth around the world to get hooked onto the new products and maybe to phase out their old products that's called the conventional tobacco or roll your own or whatever. But there's something in the middle here. Most of you or some of you may not be familiar with is the verdict in 2006, the court verdict that that shows how, how bad the tobacco industries are, especially in this session that's relative to you all, is marketing to youth, which I will cover in a little while. And then hopefully, at the end of today, most or all of you will have power, the power of youth, to go through the whole process. And what we are trying to achieve for is the end game that Dr. Wanchat already mentioned earlier. And I think by now, most of you would know what the end game is. So my presentation today will touch upon three main points. One is what's already known, or, what's easily known, and then the analysis of what is and is not known. That comes in the main part of the research by Dr. Sirat, which is, something that's not known before, and then she tries to discover it through her research. And last but not least is the actions for the possible ideas and solutions developed by all of you or by the youth around the world, okay? So these are the 3A way of doing things that I will try to touch upon. So what is already known from the tobacco industry and other youth research that we've already known? Well, this one I just showed earlier about the verdict it's in. It's by the Tobacco Control Legal Consortium summarizes here is that the industry spent enormous resources tracking the behaviors and preferences of the youth under 21 to start young people smoking and to keep them smoking. And they used their knowledge of young people to create highly sophisticated and appealing marketing campaigns targeted to lure them into starting smoking and later become nicotine addicts, okay? So that is from the section called Marketing to Youth, which is one of the 7 points from the verdict is in 2006, is the document from the Tobacco Control Legal Consortium in the US. Another fact that's already known are some statistics. Like in Thailand, we have statistics like from the GYTS and in 2015, 2011, and you can see all these figures, like the first one there. The youth age 13 to 15, like 15% currently use tobacco products, and how many boys, how many girls, and so on. So what are these facts telling you? These data on youth are often out of date. As you can see, one is 2015, the other is 2011, and we do not have the surveys, every so often. That's why we have to count on this old data. So they're out of date. So what's happening? Because rapid changes in nicotine products designed by the tobacco industry's interest to appeal to youth, and you all know by now already from the previous speakers, right? How many, like Dr. Naowarat presented earlier, e-cigarettes and so on and so forth. I don't need to mention all of them. You probably know much more than me, okay? So what else do we know? To youth research, you see the bottom, the last line of this slide shows that this research was just came out on the 25th of August. So what's the fact from this research that we learned? Initiation of smoking is happening at younger ages than in the past in many, many, many countries, right? And the use of combustible cigarettes has declined in some high-income countries like in the US, but unfortunately has sometimes been replaced by nicotine use through e-cigarettes and other alternative nicotine products. No? Combustible cigarettes will continue to be the main source of income for the tobacco industry in the future, despite the industry stating they wish to phase out cigarette use. You have probably heard by now that some tobacco industries have made big announcement as they are like angels, that, in the next 30 years, we are going to do away with all this combustible tobacco. Oh, that sounds like good news. We are not going to have anyone smoking conventional cigarettes anymore in the next 30 years. But what's happening, I think many countries are facing by now, you know more than that, okay? And these 3 pieces of research also, I don't have to go into too much detail. These 3 recent studies highlight the evidence that e-cigarettes use is a gateway to combustible tobacco use. So you can follow and go to Google to look for these 3 recent studies, okay? Because these studies are important since they include crystallized nicotine that was pioneered by a company called, or a brand called Juul, Juul, and they are in many current products, okay? Another fact, what is already known, in summary, tobacco and nicotine use by youth is not declining in low and in middle-income countries because the adult use is still high, and tobacco use is desirable by youth. And this is a problem in Thailand, where the tobacco industry has benefited from their myths that, some smokers being more fun-loving, personality appealing, tough or independent and mature, things like that, So the tobacco industry uses multiple platforms of social media, which I'll be talking more about that later, and electronic messaging to continue their deception and misinformation about tobacco and nicotine use. So we have to analyze what's going on here, what is not known. In many low and middle income countries, what is known that comes from government surveys that I mentioned earlier that not happening every year. And so nicotine use has been changing rapidly, as you probably know by now, with new products, and this means that a true picture of the direction of tobacco product use is still vague, not very clear. So when we examine what youth experience from the tobacco product placement in society through what? Internet platforms, influences, and especially social media is vital to understanding the rapid changes in youth, how they use the new tobacco products, okay? Here comes the research pieces from Dr. Sirat's research that she did in 2020 and 21, very recent. It's called the e-cigarette situation, the 4 Ps in Thailand. Are you familiar with this term, 4 Ps? Anyone? Well, it is not, it's a marketing term, okay? In the next slides, you will see the definitions of what the 4 Ps are from this research by Dr. Sirat. Okay, thanks to Dr. Sirat for allowing me to use your slides here. The 4 Ps, in marketing are like product, the product situation, price. Third one is the placement, and the last one is the promotion. So these are the strategies of the companies that they use in marketing, especially tobacco companies, In the research by Dr. Sirat, she surveyed about 3,000 e-cigarette vapors in Thailand. Surprisingly, among those, about the same percentages were the high school kids and college and university students using them. That is very sad to me, because we know that it's not allowed in Thailand by law. But how comes high percentage, of e-cigarette use by these young people? That is not a good sign for us, tobacco control people. So the survey did, as I said, in 20 and 21 in 15 markets in Bangkok and neighboring cities. And she found that 6 social media platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and so on, are very popular among these youth, okay? So the next P is a product. 10 types of e-cigarette products are continuously supplied in the Thai markets, over 10,000 pieces a year. How that can be done when it is illegal in Thailand? So questions for you Thai youth to fight in the future, okay? And then the taste and smell of these products are the top qualities. And trending in the 21 are these, disposable pod and the cannabinol vape. And by now, I think, it becomes legal. I don't know. I can't imagine what else is going to come after that. It's the question for you all. to do it, okay? I'll be retired by that. So next P is the price. From the research, the findings from the research is that it's been the price war. Dr. Sirat found that due to excessive supplies, the e-cigarette cost reduces or comes down a lot, 40% compared to in 2020. The products on the left-hand side, you can see all kinds of prices, okay? For placement or place where it is sold, 10 markets around Bangkok and the vicinity or in the neighboring cities, 10 markets have not changed since 2017. How many years now? About 4 years. They still keep selling it, but it is illegal here. They can still sell it. The question for you too, what should youth do, okay, in the near future? 21 shops found at like Klong Thom Market and 14 at the Liep Thang Duan Intra Market, and a lot of you probably know where they are at, okay? And flavored cigarettes and roll your own still exist. For the last P of the marketing strategies, promotion. The findings of this research found that 8 kinds of promotion in all platforms, a discount, a gift promotion, special extra services, or seasonal marketing, like Valentine's or Christmas or New Year's, and you name it. Raffle drawing, online engagement, sale representatives, to have young people, good-looking people to represent their products, and various influencers. And it's also found that YouTube is a platform that, all kinds of desirable information to promote e-cigarette use. They know that youth like to do YouTube, So the social media, well, YouTube is a platform, to promote the e-cigarettes with sales first, and then do it yourself, the review of the products, and desirable influencers, good-looking people, and showing fun, how to make well, you name it. You go to all those things more than me. I have seen just some, and it's so astonishing how bad it is to me, So all social media platforms are sources for e-cigarettes communication, advertisement, and promotion, creating e-cigarette new norm. That's what they're trying to do, right? Building e-cigarette support and challenging the law with misinformation. So in conclusion, Dr. Sirat's research found that all social media platforms are sources for e-cigarette sales, and the night markets are primary sale places. Companies sell online and mail to the customers their products, and oversupplies cause price to drop because of the competitiveness among many brands and so on of these new products. And companies emphasize the positive aspects of e-cigarettes and ignore its disadvantages and health effects. And insufficient communication about harms of e-cigarettes by authorities and suppliers, that's still not enough. So we need more than that, right? Then the control of social media is very necessary. It is a must for that. Now, what actions do we need from you all, the youth today? The actions from possible ideas and solutions that developed by youth. You know that you have a lot of understanding about tobacco use and harmfulness and health effects and discussion of lifestyle choices and so on. But research shows that the multiple effects of nicotine addiction on youth, but this seldom is made relevant to youth experience or is countered by misinformation provided to sell tobacco products, right? And given the different social environments youth encounter, it is important to think about how youth can frame the ideas and solutions for advocacy against tobacco use. okay? Especially the sustainable one, like the title of this talk is about. So the activists thinking about change, yeah? We got to change. We can't, stay like this forever. So it is important to have good ideas. Developing good ideas can often be done by a group of people who have the same idea as yourself, or you can meet together, you can network by phone, by other kinds of social media, and so on. And it is important to develop solutions that go to the core of the issue that we are confronting. So this means that thinking of what is feasible within the context of the social environment. What are the immediate environment that we're thinking about? So our home, our school, job, colleges, universities, and hobby or sport. So these are the networking that you can form, right? So the resources are needed for making change, but action with strong determination and a clear focus on a specific aim can bring support and resources. So actions that focus on an obvious need can bring results even with limited resources. We have many examples of that, Can personal advocacy have effect? Okay, we have this example. I don't know if any of you know this person named Lungchun. If you're my age, Lungchun is very, very famous, but I don't know about you youth. But if you keep attending the National Tobacco or Health Conference, you will see him, or you will hear about him. He is just a one person that, he is a retired health worker, but he took action documenting violations throughout the whole country, just on his bicycle, Maybe he gets on the train or a bus, just go to different provinces, and then he would go to see if any place that violates the law. Then he documents that or take picture, and then take it to the local police. So in 10 years, this Mr. Lungchun has filed over 4,000 complaints, and a lot of them that got intention by the police, about 45% of those complaints that the police, responded. So many complaints involved like simple things, no smoking sign that being posted, at the municipal buildings or at the schools or at the temples and things like that. So these complaints to the police and had some consequences since required the police reports of these investigations raise community awareness and responsibility for the tobacco control. Well, here comes a crisis, which means a turning point of a disease when an important change takes place. You all probably know this young girl, named Greta Thunberg, the environmental ambassador. She made a big change in the, about her campaign about the environment, right? So you can take that good example, being Greta. In tobacco control, changing the system means acting to make a world without tobacco use. That's called endgame, that you have heard already, and you will probably be hearing it more and more. And so in Thailand, the experience of secondhand smoke, in my whole time that I've done the research in secondhand smoke, I've seen restaurants that allow smoking, and then pub and bars, and now they're all smoke-free places, in a lot of other public places as well. So, is the job done if no one follows the law? The answers required from you all, because you, the youth, can raise these issues locally, okay? Learning by doing requires action. Fearlessness and innovation are youth strengths. Yes, you have power to do that. So you come up with your own ideas and actions for tobacco control, keeping in mind that you have individual allies and organizations that you can also work with to reduce smoking and establish an end game for nicotine use in your country. That's your power. Yeah? And take the rest of this session to write out ideas that you have for tobacco control advocacy. Remember that the idea should be an idea that leads to sustainable action for tobacco control. Thank you. That ends my presentation.
Thank you so
very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Naowarat. From now, we will have roughly about 10 to 15 minutes, roughly 10 minutes, so that we can have a discussion and talk about this. If any of you have any questions, please, about this session or the sessions before this, maybe we can discuss, we can talk about it, just post it in. We have time to talk about it. Dr. Naowarat, it's very interesting that you're talking about the social media, because it's something that's so trendy. It's something it's everything nowadays, especially in the COVID time like this. The advertisement that you see, that like Krong Thom or some night markets, they're all closed over the past 1 or 2 years. So social media, posting the use of electronic cigarette online is prevalent. It's everywhere. But how specifically can we really control the social media or the youth assessing this thing? How do we help them? How do we control this?
That is a very good question, very interesting. I myself have experienced it in my real life. The social media, they can get to people almost of all ages,
yes.
right? That's
yes.
very dangerous. And we need someone or some organizations to be very active in tracing that. And how they do it, the delivery system now is so, like you said, during the COVID time. One day, I didn't know that just a few houses from myself, we got the police coming into the, that house. Then people told me they have e-cigarettes in that house. Oh my gosh, they're selling it. It looks just like normal house, normal homes. But the motorcycles, keep coming in and out, and they deliver and so on. So how do they do that? They advertise it through the social media, and then they deliver it through this, just very simple transportation system.
But someone must have reported them.
Yes.
So that and alert the law enforcement, alert the police.
Right.
And maybe that is something that we can do, if we see this on the Instagram report.
Right.
Maybe that can be helpful.
We need another Longjun, another kind of that person. For Longjun, he still uses the old style, going on his bicycle, taking a picture. But nowadays, I think youth can do it much more effective and faster than that, and so on. And besides that, I forgot to mention something to them that this is not related to your question. I forgot to mention about this publication. It came in 2020. How to show that? Okay. Can you see that? Would you post that for me, please?
There's a bit of reflection.
Okay,
good angle. Yeah.
You can go on Google and search for this one. It's, especially the English one here is where bands are best, why low income and middle income countries must prohibit e-cigarettes and HTP sales. Okay, so this is put out by the union. Which is the International Union Against Tuberculosis and Lung Disease, just last year. So you can look in Google.
I think this one is in Dr. Wanchat's slide, one of his slides
that's
as well.
good. Yeah,
and that's a resource that you can go through.
Okay.
We have 2 questions popping in. One is, what is the punishment for violating the tobacco control law, like selling ban? What's the punishment?
For what?
For
For selling?
tobacco control, violating the tobacco control law. It depends on, I think you need to be more specific about this question. What kind of violation?
Right.
Right. You know, I've seen that some celebrity, to come back to the social media thing, I've seen that some celebrity, they got into trouble just by posting their pictures using, you know, electronic cigarette or even alcohol. You know, in Thailand, it's prohibited by law. And to know, for celebrities, you know, they have lots of followers. So they are in the eyes and ears of the law enforcement. But for other people, you know, not celebrity, and if we see that, you know, there's an option to report this as well. Right?
Right.
And then that could alert the law enforcement.
Another problem that I've seen and realized is that once they see somebody use the product and they would like to report to the police, and then they probably take a picture or tell the location where they've found the violations and so on. By the time the police take action, you know, nothing is there anymore. So that's another problem. So we have to kind of come up with some ideas of how to sustain this kind of, you know, tobacco control action.
In the example that you gave us, Lung Jun,
Right.
I've heard of his name.
Yes.
I've heard of his name.
Good.
But he did this over the course of 10 years.
Yes.
I think he's personally sustainable. He's sustainable by himself. But
Yeah.
you know, just for us, and I don't think I can do the reporting, or I can report 4,000 times like he did. So I think what he did was amazing. But we need to find the way for the system to do this for us.
Yeah. You need head and heart, you know, to do it. Really, we really admire what he's doing. In fact, our team have written an article, and it's now been submitted to a journal to tell about what his activities. So we hope that's accepted and published soon.
I think you mentioned about this already. The e-cigarette vapes and HTP are less harmful for health. Isn't this a marketing strategy for tobacco industry? Yes. Right?
Yes.
Yes, and we have to say, no, you're not right, you're wrong. Thank you for the comprehensive presentation. Please suggest some measures to monitor these. I don't really understand some of these acronyms. Maybe I'm old. WRT emerging products. Some measures to monitor these new emerging products. Is there any way to monitor these?
Well, I think one of the 4 Ps. One is placement of places where they sell. In Dr. Sirat's research, we saw that it's night markets and you know, many of those places where youth like to go to. So if you go to those places and you see something, you know, that's going on, you can probably take a picture or a report to the police or to the authorities. And the social media, the internet, all kinds of those YouTube, Instagrams, and Facebook, and so on. So you have very sharp ideas, I know, sharper than mine anyway. So how to do it, you know, form into groups, or the people who have the same ideas as you, networking, and then maybe you can present at the end of today, because in the next few sessions you will hear from, like, Dr. Becky Freeman. You know, she will tell you about the strategies of the tobacco industries, how they do it to lure the young people, you know, to get addicted and so on.
Okay. In which she's coming next. I think she's preparing right
now.
Okay, then we have a last question. Okay. These things are banned in the countries. it seems like it's difficult to reduce this by banning or punishment. How can we overcome this more effectively? I mean, just, punishment or banning is something that we've been using for ages.
Right.
Any other ideas of what else we can do to reduce the tobacco use or e-cigarette use?
As you can see from the facts, the unknown facts, until we have done some research, like by Dr. Sirat's research, over 3,000 users of these vaping products. More than, or about half of them are students and young people, even though it is banned in Thailand by Thai law. So how can these products exist? Is the questions for your generation. I'll be gone by that time.
I totally agree that it's not just about punishment or enforcing the law to those people who sell the electronic cigarette or cigarette to youngsters, but it's also how do we promote for younger people, younger generation, not to use it when there's something like this available in school. I think the model is very much the same way as alcohol use. The trend right now, the alcohol use gets to the much younger generation comparing with before. Of course, it's illegal, but it's there. So somehow we have to figure out the way to promote the good habit or not to use habit.
Right. I think youth need to have stronger minds and how to analyze and realize that these products are not real good for your health and not good for anybody on earth at all. So not to allow that into your life. So I think you need to be so determined not to come close to it.
I think this one is very interesting. Does creating awareness among farmers about the ill effect of tobacco and providing alternative career opportunities to those who work in the tobacco industries helps with this problem?
The tobacco farmers?
The farmers and people in the industry that cigarette smoking is bad. Would that help?
I think it does help somewhat, but you need to balance between the money and health.
It's
like
their career. It's their
job.
Right.
Yeah.
So we need to. It's not just telling them that. I think they know already.
Oh yeah, they do.
They're growing tobacco.
Right.
So I think it's a very good idea. It's not just on the users or consumers, but maybe to the farmers and people in industry as well, that, okay, you know that smoking is bad, but change, or, there must be some idea. I can't come up with that idea right now, but it seems like it's something, there are another group of people that we have to target as well.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Right?
But if you talk about the tobacco farmers specifically, they have their own purpose. They have like in certain areas that grow tobacco. It may be a little difficult because we've been trying to do the crop replacement and so on. You really have to come up with certain kind of crops that would bring in much more income. That's more obvious to them, that it is much better than tobacco, than growing tobacco. How can you convince that? So I think it takes time, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible. I think it is possible in the long run. Yes.
Okay, that's a very good idea. And right, if you have any more idea, write it down or bring it up to us so that we can discuss about it.
Right.
And do you have any other things to say to the youth before we move on?
Well, I'm hoping to see more youth involved in this kind of activities. I'm happy to see that we have about 10 or 11 countries of youth, but some countries there are only just one. I hope those countries that have representative of just one or two people. I hope that among your friends, your colleagues, or that you can create the ideas or talk with them and share with them about what you've learned from the workshop or from what you've attended today. And I'm sure that you will have a lot more to learn from other speakers, and until the end of today that I'll be coming in again at the declaration at the end of the day. If you still cannot think of what to ask, or you know, your brain is not working right now, you go back and have lunch and so on. Then write down at the declaration session. We will have more, like 4 or 5 more experts to come and share with you. So just keep thinking about it, working in groups, and if sometimes you yourself cannot work it through your own mind, if you keep talking to other people and then you hear more speakers throughout the day, it will probably, you know, stimulate your thinking and come up with some good ideas, or even something to write down. Like my title is, what we're looking for is a sustainable ideas for tobacco control from young people like you all, because soon people in my generation will just be gone. We need you to replace us, okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Naowarat, for this very interesting talk. And it's very inspiring, and I think it generated lots and lots of questions and lots of ideas. So people, let's move on to the next session.